Hey guys, tonight we're slipping into the warm, dusty world of ancient Mesopotamia, where the gentle patter of rain, our soothing backdrop, mingles with the scent of sun-baked clay and distant rivers. Picture yourself perched on a flat rooftop in a bustling city like Ur, the stars above twinkling like scattered jewels, the air alive with soft laughter and the clink of game pieces. The rain's steady rhythm wraps you in calm, pulling you into a time when families gathered under the night sky to play games that made their hearts race and their minds drift. Fair warning with this rain and these cozy tales. You might not stay awake long enough to hear how a Sumerian kid once cheated at dice and got caught, so before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your city and local time. I love picturing where you're listening as the rain falls. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand on a rooftop in ancient Mesopotamia, somewhere around 2500 BCE, in a city humming with life despite the late hour. The air is warm, carrying the faint scent of barley fields and the Tigris River a few miles off. Below, narrow streets twist through mud brick houses, their walls glowing faintly under torchlight. Up here, though, it's just you. A straw mat under your feet, and a sky so clear it feels like you could scoop the stars into your palm. The rain's gentle patter, our modern soundscape blends with the scene, making the clay tiles underfoot feel cool and slick. You're not alone for long. A family joins you, their tunics rustling as they settle onto the roof, lugging a small wooden board etched with strange squares and a pile of polished stones. They're here to play a game, one of countless pastimes that lit up Mesopotamian nights. These rooftops were the heart of social life after sunset, with daytime heat scorching the fertile plains between the Tigris and Euphrates. Families retreated to their roofs to catch breezes and unwind. Historians know this from clay tablets found in ruins like Uruk, where scribes jotted down everything from trade deals to festival plans. One quirky tidbit: some tablets hint at rooftop game nights, so lively they sparked neighborly feuds over who owed who a jug of beer after a heated match. You smirk, imagining a Sumerian Karen demanding her winnings. The board before you is simple but deliberate. Its squares scratched deep, suggesting years of use. The family's eldest, a woman with braided hair, gestures for you to watch closely. She places a stone on a square, her eyes glinting with strategy. Games weren't just fun, they were a way to bond, settle scores, or even flex your brain power. In a world without Netflix or smartphones, this was prime entertainment. You notice the kids giggling, nudging each other as they sneak extra stones from a pile. Cheating, it seems, is as old as dirt. Historians still argue whether these rooftop games were purely social or had deeper ritual meanings, maybe tied to pleasing the gods who supposedly watched from the stars. You glance up, half expecting a deity to wink back. The rain's soft drone pulls you deeper into the scene, your eyelids growing heavy as the family's chatter fades to a soothing hum. They're explaining the rules now, but it's less about winning and more about the rhythm of play, the clack of stones, the shared glances, the night stretching on. You lean back on the mat, the straw prickling through your tunic. The city's sounds drift up: a dog barking, a distant flute, the creak of a cart. This roof feels like a little island, floating above the chaos of ancient life tax collectors, floods, the occasional grumpy king. You're tempted to join the game, but the rules are a mystery. And honestly, you're not sure you'd last 5 minutes against these pros. A kid tosses a stone, misses the board, and everyone laughs, including you. It's a small moment, but it's why these games mattered. They carved out joy in a world where survival was never guaranteed. The rain keeps falling, a steady whisper, and you feel yourself sinking into the story, the stars blurring above. You're still on that Mesopotamian rooftop, the straw mat beneath you now, a familiar comfort as the rain's gentle patter weaves through the night. The family's game continues, stones clacking softly on the wooden board, but your attention drifts to a small clay tablet tucked beside the mat. It's no bigger than your hand, its surface scratched with wedge-shaped marks cuneiform, the world's first writing system. The woman with braided hair notices your curiosity and slides it toward you, her smile hinting at a story. "This tablet," she murmurs, "holds the rules of their game, etched in clay to settle disputes when someone, usually her cheeky nephew, tries to bend them." You run your fingers over the marks, feeling the weight of a civilization that turned play into something worth recording. These tablets are a historical goldmine. Archaeologists have unearthed thousands across Mesopotamia, from Babylon to Nippur, detailing everything from tax records to epic poems. Among them are rare finds describing games, some with rules so detailed you could recreate them today. One quirky tidbit: a tablet from mentions a game called 20 Squares, played with stones and dice, where the loser had to buy the winner. A round of date wine, Mesopotamia's version of loser buys the drinks. You chuckle, picturing a Sumerian tavern brawl over a bad roll. The tablet you're holding likely serves a similar purpose, a rule book for the rooftop game, ensuring fair play under the stars. You squint at the cuneiform, wishing you could decode it. The marks look like a mix of tiny arrows and bird tracks, each one pressed into the clay with a reed stylus. Scribes, often trained from childhood, spent years mastering this script. Historians still argue whether these game tablets were purely practical or held symbolic meaning, perhaps as offerings to Inanna, the goddess of love and war, who supposedly enjoyed a good match. You imagine her lounging on a cloud, cheering for the underdog. The woman explains the rules, something about moving stones to specific squares, but her voice is soft, blending with the rain's rhythm. And you're more captivated by the tablet's existence than the game itself. Holding it feels like touching time. This small slab of clay, baked hard by the sun, has outlasted empires. It's a reminder that Mesopotamians didn't just survive, they thrived, finding joy in games that broke the monotony of harvesting barley or dodging floods. You glance at the family, their faces lit by a flickering oil lamp. The kids are still sneaking stones, and you're tempted to call them out, but the mood is too warm. too easy. The rain's steady drone pulls you deeper. Like a lullaby you didn't know you needed. You set the tablet down, careful not to smudge the ancient marks, and lean back, letting the night wrap around you. The rooftop feels alive. A stage for stories etched in clay and whispered under stars. You wonder how many hands held this tablet before you, how many arguments it settled. The woman nudges a stone across the board, her move precise, and you realize the game's pace is deliberate slow, almost meditative. It's not about rushing to win, but savoring the moment. You notice a faint breeze, carrying the scent of wet earth, and it mingles with the rain's soft patter, grounding you in this ancient world. A kid giggles, claiming victory, but his sister rolls her eyes, pointing to the tablet's rules. You laugh quietly, some things never change. As you watch, you can't help but feel a pang of envy. These people, with their simple boards and starlit nights, found a way to make time stand still. You're half tempted to grab a stone and join in, but you'd probably fumble the rules and owe someone a jug of wine. Instead, you settle deeper into the mat, the clay tablet resting beside you like a silent storyteller. The city hums below cartwheels. Distant voices, but up here, it's just the game, the stars, and the rain's gentle whisper, pulling you closer to sleep. You're still sprawled on that Mesopotamian rooftop, the straw mat prickling your back as the rain's soft patter hums in your ears. The family's game has wrapped up, the clay tablet tucked away, but the night's far from over. You follow them down a creaky ladder, your sandals scuffing against mud brick, and step into the moonlit streets of Ur, a city that never fully sleeps. The air's cooler now, scented with roasted sesame and distant reeds. You're headed to another rooftop, where a different family's gathered, their voices drifting like smoke. They're playing a board game too, but this one's bigger. Its wooden surface gleaming under an oil lamp's flicker. You settle in, the stars above Ur winking as if they're in on the fun. This is the royal game of Ur, one of the oldest board games ever discovered. Archaeologists found a stunning example in the 1920s, buried in a royal tomb. Its board inlaid with lapis lazuli and shell. It's a race game where players move pieces along a path of squares, guided by dice rolls. You watch as a man with a curled beard tosses tetrahedral dice made from sheep knuckles, no less, and moves a polished stone with a grunt of triumph. His opponent, a woman with silver bangles, smirks and counters, her piece leaping ahead. The game's simple but tense, like chess meets checkers with a side of Sumerian swagger. You're half tempted to bet on the woman, but you'd probably lose your tunic. The quirky tidbit here: some boards had tiny compartments for storing pieces, like an ancient Tupperware for gamers. One even had cuneiform graffiti scratched on the back, cursing a rival player proof that trash talking is timeless. You stifle a laugh, imagining a Sumerian rage quitting over a bad roll. The family's focused, their banter light but sharp, trading jabs about who's got the god's favor tonight. The dice clatter, the lamp sputters, and you feel the game's rhythm pulling you in, like a song you've always known. Historians still argue whether the royal game was just for fun or had cosmic stakes, maybe mimicking the journey of souls through the underworld. You glance at the board, its squares forming a peculiar path, and wonder if each moves a tiny prayer to Nana, the moon god glowing overhead. The woman rolls again, her bangles jingling, and lands on a lucky square marked with a rosette. Everyone cheers, and you join in, caught up in the moment. The rain's gentle drone weaves through the scene, softening the edges, making the moonlight feel like a warm blanket. You lean closer, noticing the board's worn edges, smoothed by countless hands. This isn't just a game, it's a ritual, a way to steal a few hours from the grind of ancient life. Ur's no paradise. Floods wreck crops. Kings demand taxes. And scorpions are a real buzzkill. But up here, with the dice rolling and the stars watching, none of that matters. You catch a kid sneaking a peek at the dice, hoping to rig the next roll. You wink at him, remembering those sneaky stone stealers from the last roof. Cheating's practically a sport in Mesopotamia. The game's pace is slow, deliberate, giving you time to soak in the details, the clink of bangles, the scent of lamp oil, the distant croak of frogs by the river. You're starting to love this city, its stubborn joy in the face of hardship. The man rolls poorly, groans, and blames a passing owl for cursing his luck. You chuckle. Superstitions haven't changed much, have they? The rain keeps falling, a steady whisper, and you sink deeper into the mat. The board game's rhythm lulling you like a tide. You're not sure who'll win, but you're rooting for the underdog, hoping the moon's on their side. You're still in Ur, the moonlight bathing the rooftop where the royal game of Ur unfolds. But the game's wrapped up, and the family's packing away their board. You wave goodbye, your sandals crunching as you climb down to the streets, drawn by a new sound, rattling dice, and muffled cheers from a nearby courtyard. The rain's soft patter follows you, blending with the scent of dust and date palms. You slip through a narrow alley, past mud brick walls still warm from the day's heat, and find a dusty open space where a small crowd's gathered. They're hunched over a patch of packed earth, tossing bone dice that gleam under torchlight. You squeeze in, the air buzzing with bets and banter, and realize you've stumbled into a Sumerian dice game. Raw and rowdy. Dice games were a staple in Mesopotamia, played everywhere from taverns to temples. Archaeologists have found dice in ruins across Sumer, often carved from sheep or goat bones, some as old as 3000 BCE. These aren't your Vegas six-siders. They're tetrahedral, with 4 pointy corners, each marked with dots or symbols. You watch a young man with a lopsided grin shake 3 dice in a clay cup, muttering a prayer to Shamash, the sun god, before tossing them. The crowd roars as the dice land 2 dots up, 1 blank. He wins a handful of barley grains, enough for a day's bread. You smirk, thinking he's got better luck than you at board games. Here's the quirky bit. Some dice were weighted, rigged for cheating. excavations, at Nippur uncovered a hollow die with a tiny stone inside. Designed to favor certain roles proof, Sumerians weren't above a hustle. You spot a guy in the crowd, his eyes shifty, palming an extra die. You're tempted to call him out, but the vibe's too lively, and honestly, you're not sure you'd fare better in this game. The rules are simple: bet on the dice's outcome. Roll, and hope the gods don't hate you. It's less strategic than the royal game, more a test of nerve and luck. Historians still argue whether dice games were just for fun or doubled as divination, a way to peek into the gods' plans. You notice an older woman muttering as she rolls, her eyes fixed on the stars, as if the dice are whispering secrets. The crowd's bets are small grain, pottery shards, even a kid offering a dried fig, but the stakes feel high. Each roll a tiny drama. You lean against a wall, the mud brick cool against your back, and let the scene wash over you. The rain's gentle rhythm softens the crowd's cheers, making the torchlight flicker like a dream. You're handed the clay cup, and the crowd nudges you to roll. Your heart skips. Peer pressure's eternal, isn't it? You shake the dice, feeling their uneven edges, and toss them into the dirt. They tumble, landing with one dot up, and the crowd groans. You've lost, but they laugh it off, slapping your shoulder. No barley for you tonight. You grin, handing the cup to a girl who's all confidence, her braid swinging as she preps her roll. The courtyard's alive with chatter, the scent of roasted chickpeas drifting from a nearby stall. You realize this game's not about winning, it's about the moment. The shared thrill under Ur's starry sky. The rain keeps falling, a steady whisper, and you feel yourself sinking deeper into the scene. The dice clatter again, and you're tempted to try another roll, but your eyelids are heavy, the courtyard blurring at the edges. You remember those sneaky kids from the first rooftop, probably rigging dice like these. The thought makes you chuckle. Mesopotamia's got no shortage of hustlers. You step back, letting the crowd's energy fade into the rain's soft drone. The stars above glowing brighter as the night stretches on. You slip away from the dice game's rowdy courtyard, the cheers fading as you wander Ur's quiet streets. The rain's gentle patter, your only companion. The scent of damp clay and blooming tamarisk lingers, guiding you to a grander rooftop. This one perched atop a wealthy merchant's home. You climb a sturdy ladder, your sandals gripping the rungs, and emerge into a scene straight out of a Babylonian dream. A group of men in fine linen tunics kneels around a polished stone board, their faces lit by bronze lamps casting a golden glow. Above, the stars seem to pulse, as if blessing the game below. But before it begins, a figure in a fringed robe, a priest, steps forward, raising a clay bowl of incense. You realize this isn't just play, it's a ritual. Tying rooftop games to the divine, Mesopotamian priests often presided over games, especially in Babylon, where play could honor gods like Marduk, the city's patron. Cuneiform tablets from the period describe ceremonies where game outcomes were seen as omens, guiding decisions from harvests to wars. You watch the priest murmur prayers, his voice low, the incense smoke curling toward the sky like a sleepy serpent. The game board, etched with cosmic symbols stars, crescents feel sacred, its pieces carved from ivory. The men move them slowly, reverently, as if each placement nudges the universe's balance. You're struck by the silence, broken only by the rain's soft hum and the occasional clink of a piece. Here's the quirky bit. One tablet from Babylon claims priests sometimes rigged games with blessed dice to ensure favorable omens, like a divine PowerPoint presentation for the gods. You smirk, imagining a priest palming an extra piece while preaching piety. Historians still argue whether these rituals were genuine spiritual acts or clever ploys to sway public opinion. You lean closer, the incense tickling your nose, and notice the players' calm focus, their hands steady despite the stakes. This game's not about winning, but about connection to each other, to the stars, to something bigger. The priest steps back, and the game flows, pieces gliding across the board like planets in orbit. You settle onto a cushioned mat, the merchant's roof, a far cry from the straw ones you've lounged on. The air's warm, scented with myrrh and wet earth, and the rain's rhythm pulls you deeper, your eyelids heavy. You're tempted to join, but the rules are a mystery, and you'd probably knock over the board. Earning a glare from the priest, instead, you watch, letting the scene's serenity wash over you. The stars above seem to approve, their light softening the night. Hey everyone, we've reached this point. Have you drifted off to sleep yet? If you're still awake, drop a comment to let me know where you're at and how you're feeling. But if you're already fast asleep, I wish you a deep, restful sleep filled with beautiful dreams. Now, back to the rooftop. You notice a young player, barely a teen, mimicking the priest's gestures, his seriousness almost comical. You chuckle. Kids copying adults is universal, isn't it? The game continues, each move deliberate, the board a tiny cosmos under the vast sky. You remember those sneaky dice rollers from the courtyard, probably unaware their games echoed these sacred ones. The merchant offers you a sip of date wine, and you accept, its sweetness grounding you in this moment. The rain keeps falling, a steady whisper, blending with the incense and lamp glow. You lean back, the mat soft against your tunic, and feel Ur's pulse, its people, its gods, its games. The priest's voice hums again, blessing the final move, and the players nod, satisfied. You're not sure who won, but it doesn't matter. This was about harmony, not competition. You glance at the stars, wondering if Marduk's watching, amused by your awful dice roll earlier. The night stretches on, and you sink deeper, the rooftop fading into the rain's gentle lullaby. You ease down from the merchant's rooftop, the priest's incense still lingering in your nose as the rain's soft patter guides your steps through Ur's winding streets. Last a mad brief. Oh, see skies. The air's thick with the scent of wet reeds and cooling clay, and you're drawn to a new rooftop. This one, broader, its edges lined with clay pots sprouting herbs. A crowd's gathered, their voices a low buzz under the starlit sky. And you climb up, your tunic brushing against the ladder's rough mud brick. Up here, The scene's electric: two young men, bare-chested and gleaming with sweat, circle each other on a woven mat, their muscles taut. You've stumbled into a rooftop wrestling match, a Mesopotamian spectacle that's half sport, half theater, all under the watchful stars. Wrestling was a big deal in ancient Mesopotamia, especially in cities like Ur and Babylon. Cuneiform tablets, including those from the Epic of Gilgamesh, describe heroes grappling to prove strength or settle disputes. Often before cheering crowds, you watch the wrestlers lunge, their feet scuffing the mat, each trying to pin the other without stepping out of bounds. The crowd's rowdy, betting barleys or copper rings, their shouts softened by the rain's steady hum. One wrestler, with a braided beard, grins as he dodges a grab, taunting his opponent with a playful slap. You laugh. Showboating's clearly not a modern invention. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some wrestlers rub their skin with sesame oil to slip out of holds, leaving opponents grappling air. Excavations at Nineveh found a clay seal showing oiled-up wrestlers, one looking comically frustrated as his rival slithered free. You spot a jar of oil nearby, and sure enough, the bearded wrestler's shining like he's been dipped in it. Historians still argue whether these matches were purely entertainment or ritual tests of manhood, perhaps tied to pleasing Enlil, the storm god, who'd appreciate a good tussle. You glance at the clouds, half expecting a divine thumbs up. The match heats up, the wrestlers locking arms, their grunts echoing across the roof. You settle onto a straw mat, the herb pots releasing a faint, minty scent that mingles with the rain's earthy drone. The crowd's energy is contagious, but the scene's oddly soothing. The wrestlers' rhythmic movements almost dance-like. You're tempted to cheer, but you'd probably root for the underdog and jinx him. Instead, you watch, your eyelids heavy as the rain weaves its lullaby. The bearded wrestler slips again, his opponent stumbling, and the crowd roars, tossing date pits in mock protest. You chuckle. Mesopotamian sports fans are as dramatic as any. You lean back, the mat prickling through your tunic, and notice the stars seem brighter, framing the wrestlers like a cosmic arena. This roof feels alive, a stage for Ur's restless spirit. You remember the sneaky dice rollers from the courtyard, probably betting on this match somewhere below. The thought makes you grin. Hustlers never sleep. The wrestlers circle again, their shadows stretching across the clay tiles. And you realize this isn't just about strength. It's about pride, community, the thrill of a city pausing to watch two guys try not to eat dirt. The rain's whisper softens the crowd's cheers, and you sink deeper, the match blurring into a dreamy haze. One wrestler finally pins the other, his knee pressing the mat as the crowd erupts. You clap, caught up in the moment, then laugh at yourself getting invested in a 4,000-year-old SmackDown classic. The loser stands, grinning despite the loss, and the crowd tosses him a few figs as consolation. The night's still young, but your eyes are heavy, the rain's rhythm pulling you toward sleep. You linger, watching the wrestlers share a jug of beer, their laughter echoing as the stars keep watch over Ur's endless games. You slip away from the wrestling match, the crowd's cheers fading as you descend the ladder, your sandals scuffing the mud brick. The rain's gentle patter follows you into Ur's narrow alleys, where the air smells of damp straw and distant cook fires. The stars still burn bright, guiding you toward a softer sound, children's laughter, sharp and free, spilling from a street ahead. You follow it, weaving past mud brick homes, their windows glowing with lamplight, until you reach a dusty lane where a gaggle of kids darts under the moonlight. They're playing a game, a chaotic mix of tag and hide and seek, their bare feet kicking up clouds of dirt. You lean against a wall, the clay cool against your tunic, and watch, a grin creeping across your face. Children's games were a cornerstone of Mesopotamian life, teaching agility and cunning in a world that demanded both. Cuneiform tablets from Sumer mention kids playing street games, often mimicking adult tasks like hunting or trading. You see it now. One boy, maybe 10, crouches like a hunter, stalking a giggling girl who's hiding behind a barrel, her braid peeking out. The rules are loose chase, tag, scatter. But the joy's infectious. A kid trips, rolls in the dust, and pops up laughing, unbothered by the scrape on his knee. You chuckle, remembering your own childhood games, though you probably cried over less. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some kids used clay figurines as stand-ins during games, like ancient action figures. Excavations in Uruk uncovered tiny clay warriors, some with broken arms, likely from overzealous play. You spot a girl clutching a chipped figurine, waving it like a trophy before tagging her friend. Historians still argue whether these street games were pure fun or subtle training for survival, preparing kids for a life of floods, raids, or cranky tax collectors. You watch the boy dodge a tag, leaping over a crate with gazelle-like grace, and figure he's ready for anything. The game shifts, the kid's now racing to touch a wall before getting caught. You're tempted to join, but you'd probably trip over a donkey cart and embarrass yourself. Instead, you settle onto a low bench, the wood creaking under you, and let the scene unfold. The rain's soft drone blends with the kids' squeals, creating a lullaby that tugs at your eyelids. The street's alive with their energy, shadows dancing under the stars, but it's soothing, like watching waves lap ashore. A girl tags the boy, crowing victory, and you laugh. Sibling rivalries haven't changed in 4,000 years. You glance up, the stars framing the alley like a cosmic playground. These kids, with their dusty feet and boundless energy, remind you of the dice rollers and wrestlers, all chasing joy under the same sky. The thought warms you, even as the night's chill seeps through your tunic. A kid notices you, waves, and tosses you a dried fig from his pocket. You catch it, nodding thanks, and pop it in your mouth, its sweetness grounding you. The rain keeps falling, softening the scene, and you feel Ur's pulse its people, young and old, carving out moments of light in a tough world. The game slows, some kids flopping onto the ground, others sneaking off to raid a neighbor's date stash. You lean back, the bench hard but oddly cozy, and think about those clay tablets from the first rooftop, their rules etched for grown-up games. These kids don't need tablets. Their rules are written in laughter and dust. You're half tempted to stay, but the rain's whisper is pulling you deeper, the stars blurring above. You toss the fig's pit into the dirt, wondering if it'll grow into a tree someday, and let the kids' giggles fade into the night's gentle hum. You ease away from the children's dusty street game, their laughter lingering as you wander Ur's alleys, the rain's soft patter blending with the scent of cooling clay and distant sesame oil. The stars guide you to a bustling market square where torchlight dances on mud brick walls and merchants hawk their wares pottery. Dried fish, woven baskets. You weave through the crowd, your tunic brushing against strangers, until you spot a group of traders crouched in a corner, their voices sharp with excitement. They're playing a gambling game, a chaotic mix of dice and bartered goods. Their bets piled high, barley sacks, copper beads, even a dubious-looking goat. You squat nearby, the ground gritty under your sandals, and watch, drawn into their high-stakes world. Gambling was a lively part of Mesopotamian markets, especially in Ur, a trade hub connecting Sumer to distant lands. Cuneiform tablets from the period list bets placed on games, with merchants wagering everything from grain to rare shells. You see it now, a trader with a scarred hand tosses bone dice, his eyes narrowed, while another, draped in a fringed shawl, counters with a clay marker, upping the ante with a sack of dates. The crowd eggs them on, their shouts muffled by the rain's steady hum. You're tempted to bet a fig from your pocket, but you'd probably lose it faster than you lost at dice in that courtyard. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some merchants used lucky dice carved with tiny cuneiform prayers, believing they'd sway the gods. One such die, found in Lagash, had a plea to Ninkasi, the beer goddess. Etched into it, talk about divine intervention for a bar bet. You spot a trader clutching his dice, muttering under his breath, and wonder if he's praying for a miracle or just stalling. Historians still argue whether these market games were pure profit-driven chaos or a way to build trust among traders, sealing deals with a roll. You watch the scarred trader win a round, his grin wide as he claims the goat, which bleats in protest. You laugh. Some prizes are more trouble than they're worth. The game's pace is fast. Dice clattering, bets shifting like sand. You lean against a stall, the wood creaking, and smell roasted chickpeas from a nearby vendor. The rain's gentle drone softens the market's buzz, making the torchlight flicker like a dream. You're half tempted to join, but the rules are a blur, and you'd probably end up owing someone a donkey. Instead, you watch, your eyelids heavy as the traders haggle over the next round. A woman in the crowd, her hair braided with beads, calls out a cheeky bet, offering her rival's worst sandal as collateral. The crowd roars, and you chuckle. Mesopotamian shade is next level. You sink deeper into the scene, the market's energy wrapping around you like a warm cloak. These traders, with their dice and bravado, remind you of the rooftop wrestlers, all chasing a thrill under your starry sky. The thought connects you to the city, its pulse beating through every game. You remember those sneaky kids from the streets, probably dreaming of hustling like these merchants. The scarred trader rolls again, losing this time, and groans loud enough to wake a god. You smirk. Bad luck's universal, isn't it? The rain keeps falling, its whisper blending with the dice's clatter, and you feel yourself drifting, the market blurring at the edges. The game slows, traders settling bets with slaps on the back and promises of tomorrow's rematch. You stand, brushing dust from your tunic, and glance at the stars. Their light steady above the chaos. This market, with its gambles and goats, is at its rawest, people carving out joy amid trade and toil. You're tempted to linger, but the rain's lullaby is strong, pulling you toward sleep. You step back, the trader's laughter fading, and let the night carry you forward. The stars and rain, your only guides. You drift out from the market's chaotic gambling, the trader's shouts fading as you wander Ur's quieter streets. The rain's soft patter blending with the scent of damp clay and blooming jasmine. The stars still gleam, guiding you to a rooftop, unlike any you've seen abroad. Open space beside a towering ziggurat, its stepped silhouette looming against the night sky. You climb a narrow stair, your sandals whispering on the baked clay, and emerge where a small group gathers, their faces lit by moonlight. They're playing a shadow game, casting silhouettes against the ziggurat's pale wall with a flickering oil lamp. You settle onto a straw mat, the air cool and heavy, and watch figures dance across the wall lions, birds, warriors each move a playful stroke in an ancient game. Shadow play was a rare but cherished pastime in Mesopotamia, often tied to storytelling. Cuneiform tablets from Babylon mention light games during festivals, where lamplight and walls created fleeting tales for crowds. You see it? A young woman manipulates a carved reed screen, her hands deft, shaping a lion's silhouette that prowls across the ziggurat. The group takes turns, each adding to the scene a hunter, a river, a starry sky competing to craft the most vivid image. The crowd murmurs approval, their voices soft, blending with the rain's gentle hum. You're tempted to try, but you'd probably make a lumpy cow and get polite claps at best. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some players used colored clay to tint their screens, creating faint hues in the shadows, like an ancient movie projector. A tablet from Nippur describes a festival where a red lion shadow awed onlookers. Probably just clay-dyed reeds, but magical in moonlight. You spot a smudge of ochre on the woman's fingers, and sure enough, her lion has a ruddy glow. Historians still argue whether these shadow games were pure entertainment or ritual storytelling, perhaps honoring gods like Ishtar, who loved a good tale. You glance at the ziggurat, half expecting her to peek from its peak. The game unfolds, silhouettes shifting as the lamp's flame dances. You lean back, the mat prickling through your tunic, and let the scene wash over you. The ziggurat's wall is a canvas, its limestone glowing under the moon, and the shadows feel alive, telling stories of hunts and rivers without a word. The rain's steady drone softens the group's chatter, making the silhouettes flicker like dreams. You're reminded of the kids' street games, their energy raw but free. While this feels deliberate, almost sacred, you chuckle, imagining those dice rollers from the market trying this. They'd probably bet on whose shadow was fiercest. The woman crafts a new shape, a boat gliding on wavy lines, and the group gasps, clapping softly. You join in, caught in the moment, then laugh at yourself for getting so invested in shadows. The air's cool now, scented with wet stone and reeds, and you sink deeper, your eyelids heavy. The game's pace is slow, each player taking their time, and you realize it's less about winning than building a story together under Ur's starry sky. You remember the clay tablet from that first rooftop? Its rules etched for order. But this game needs no rules, just light and imagination. The lamp sputters, casting a final shadow a tree, its branches swaying before the group pauses, passing around a jug of date wine. You're offered a sip, its sweetness grounding you, and you nod thanks, feeling part of this quiet circle. The rain keeps falling, a gentle whisper, and the ziggurat looms, its presence steady as the stars. You're tempted to stay, but the night's pulling you deeper, the shadows blurring into the rain's lullaby. You lean back, the stars above glowing softer now, and let the game's fleeting images carry you closer to sleep. You ease away from the ziggurat's shadow play, the flickering silhouettes lingering in your mind as you descend the stairs, the rain's soft patter blending with the scent of wet limestone and distant barley fields. The stars still burn bright, guiding you through Ur's streets to a lively open square where a festival hums under the moonlight. Torches cast a golden glow, and the air's thick with roasted meat, date wine, and laughter. You weave through the crowd, your tunic brushing against revelers, and climb onto a nearby rooftop where families and friends sprawl on mats, playing games amid the festival's buzz. The scene's electric dice clatter, boards clack, and voices rise in playful taunts, all softened by the rain's gentle hum. You settle in, a straw mat under you, and feel the city's joy wrap around you like a warm cloak. Festivals in Mesopotamia, especially in Sumer, were prime time for games, often tied to harvests or gods like Inanna. Cuneiform tablets describe these events, with rooftop gatherings where communities bonded over play, food, and music. You see it now. A group plays a fast-paced board game, their pieces polished stones and shells racing across a scratched wooden board. A woman with a flower tucked in her hair tosses dice, cheering as she lands a winning move, while her friend groans, tossing a fig in mock surrender. The crowd laughs, and you join in, caught in the moment. You're tempted to jump in, but you'd probably fumble the dice and owe someone a goat, like those market traders. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some festival games used trophy pieces, like beads or amulets, kept as bragging rights for years. A tablet from Uruk mentions a woman who won a lapis bead in a game and wore it as a necklace. Flexing her victory like a Sumerian MVP, you spot a man flashing a shiny shell, probably his prize from last year's festival. Historians still argue whether these games were just for fun or doubled as social glue, strengthening ties in a city where floods and wars loomed. You watch the woman roll again, her grin infectious, and figure it's both fun and family. Under Ur's starry sky. Hey everyone, we've reached this point. Have you drifted off to sleep yet? If you're still awake, drop a comment to let me know where you're at and how you're feeling. But if you're already fast asleep, I wish you a deep, restful sleep filled with beautiful dreams. Now, back to the rooftop. The game's pace is lively but not rushed, each move sparking laughter or a playful jab. You lean back, the mat prickling through your tunic, and smell roasted lamb from below, mingling with the rain's earthy whisper. The festival's rhythm drums, flutes, and chatter blends with the games, creating a scene so warm you almost forget Ur's daily grind. You remember those kids from the alleys, probably sneaking figs from this very festival. A new group starts a dice game nearby. Their bets small, but spirited pottery shards, dried fruit, even a kid offering a clay whistle. You chuckle, picturing the wrestlers from that other rooftop, trying to keep up with this crowd. They'd be out of breath in minutes. The rain's steady drone softens the festival's pulse, making the torchlight flicker like a dream. You're tempted to grab a piece and play, but the rules are a blur, and you'd probably lose spectacularly, like your dice roll in the courtyard. Instead, you watch, your eyelids heavy, the stars above framing the rooftop like a cosmic stage. The woman wins again, claiming a tiny amulet, and the crowd cheers, passing around a jug of date wine. You're offered a sip, its sweetness grounding you, and you nod thanks, feeling part of this joyful chaos. The rain keeps falling, a gentle lullaby, and you sink deeper, the festival's glow blurring at the edges. You glance at the stars, wondering if Inanna's watching, amused by your awful game luck. The night stretches on, and you let the rooftop's laughter carry you closer to sleep. The game's a heartbeat in Ur's endless night. You slip away from the festival's vibrant rooftop, the clatter of dice and laughter fading as you descend into Ur's quieter streets, the rain's soft patter blending with the scent of damp clay and fading torch smoke. The stars still guide you, their light soft but steady, leading you to a secluded courtyard tucked behind a modest mud brick home. You step through a reed gate, your sandals brushing against cool stone, and find a group of women gathered on woven mats, their voices low and warm. They're playing a subtle strategy game, moving small clay tokens across a grid scratched into a flat stone. The scene's intimate, lit by a single oil lamp, and you settle onto a mat, the air scented with mint and the rain's earthy hum. Feeling like an honored guest in their private world, women in Mesopotamia often played games in private spaces, away from the bustle of markets or festivals. Cuneiform tablets from Sumer hint at these gatherings, where women hone their wits with games of skill, sometimes passing down strategies through generations. You watch a woman with braided hair slide a token, her move blocking her opponent's path, earning a quiet chuckle from the group. The game's slow, deliberate, each token's placement a careful choice, like a conversation in moves. You're tempted to join, but you'd probably mess up their rhythm, like when you fumbled that dice roll in the courtyard. You grin, accepting your game-losing streak. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some women's games use tokens shaped like household items, looms, jars, even tiny bread loaves, turning domestic life into playful competition. A dig in Lagash uncovered a set of these. One loaf token painted with a cheeky smile, maybe a baker's signature. You spot a jar-shaped token on the stone, and sure enough, it's got a faint grin etched into it. Historians still argue whether these games were just for leisure or a way for women to assert influence in a male-dominated society, carving out power in quiet corners. You watch the braided woman's next move, her calm confidence suggesting she's winning more than the game. The lamp's glow casts soft shadows, and the rain's gentle drone weaves through the women's murmurs, creating a cocoon of calm. You lean back, the mat soft against your tunic, and feel the courtyard's warmth, a stark contrast to the festival's chaos. These women, with their tokens and whispered strategies, remind you of the shadow players by the ziggurat, crafting stories in silence. You chuckle, imagining those rowdy market traders trying this game. They'd be outsmarted in minutes. The rain's rhythm pulls you deeper, your eyelids heavy, and you realize this game's not about speed, but patience, a skill you're still working on. A younger woman, maybe a daughter, makes a bold move, earning a nod from the group. You clap softly, caught in the moment, then laugh at yourself cheering for a game you barely understand. Typical. The air is cool now, scented with wet stone and mint, and you sink deeper, the token's faint clinks blending with the rain. You remember those kids from the alleys, their games wild and free, while this feels like a secret shared under Ur's starry sky. The braided woman offers you a sip of barley water, its tang refreshing, and you nod thanks, feeling part of this quiet circle. The rain keeps falling, a steady whisper, and you let the game's slow dance carry you closer to sleep. The game pauses, the women sharing a story about a past match where someone hid a token under her mat. Cheating's universal. Isn't it? You smirk, thinking of those sneaky dice rollers and their rigged games. The courtyard feels like a haven, its walls shielding the women from Ur's daily grind, taxes, chores, the occasional grumpy priest. You're tempted to stay, but the rain's lullaby is strong, the stars blurring above. You lean back, the courtyard fading into the night's gentle hum, and let the women's soft laughter linger, a reminder of Ur's hidden joys. You slip away from the women's courtyard, their soft laughter fading as you step back into Ur's quiet streets, the rain's gentle patter blending with the scent of damp reeds and cooling clay. The stars still shimmer, guiding you to a modest building with a flickering lamp at its door, a scribal school where the city's elite learn to etch cuneiform. You climb a narrow stair, your sandals brushing against mud brick, and emerge onto a rooftop where a group of scribes, young and old, sits cross-legged on mats. They're playing a wordplay game, their voices low but animated, tossing riddles and puns like dice. You settle onto a straw mat, the air crisp with the scent of ink and wet stone, and feel the sharp wit of Ur's learned minds cutting through the night. Scribes in Mesopotamia were the rock stars of literacy, and their games often flexed mental agility. Cuneiform tablets from Nippur describe riddle contests where scribes challenged each other with word puzzles, sometimes to impress patrons or gods like Nabu, the wisdom deity. You watch a young scribe, his fingers stained with reed stylus ink, pose a riddle. I am weightless, but you carry me. I am silent, but I speak. What am I? The group leans in, murmuring, until an older scribe snaps his fingers, answering, a dream. The rooftop hums with approval, and you nod. Impressed, you'd have guessed a bad idea and flopped. The rain's soft hum weaves through their banter, making the lamp's glow flicker like a thought. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some riddle games used clay answer tokens, etched with solutions to be revealed dramatically. A dig in Babylon found one token reading river, likely the answer to a puzzle about flowing time. Talk about a mic drop moment. You spot a pile of such tokens, and sure enough, the young scribe flips one, revealing dream in tiny cuneiform. Historians still argue whether these wordplay games were just intellectual flexing or training for scribes to craft legal or divine texts, where precision was everything. You watch the older scribe pose a new riddle, his smirk suggesting he's got a tough one, and feel the rooftop's quiet intensity. The game unfolds, riddles flying, some about gods, others about barley or love. You lean back, the mat prickling through your tunic, and let the words wash over you, their rhythm blending with the rain's gentle drone. This rooftop feels like a sanctuary, far from the festival's chaos or the market's bets. You're reminded of the women's strategy game. Its moves a silent dance, while these scribes wield words like weapons. You chuckle, imagining those rowdy wrestlers trying to keep up. They'd be stumped by the first pun. The rain pulls you deeper, your eyelids heavy, and you realize this game's not about winning but sharpening the mind. A craft as delicate as cuneiform itself. A scribe tosses a riddle about a star, and you're tempted to guess, but you'd probably say a firefly and earn a polite eye roll. Instead, you watch, the lamp casting shadows that dance like the riddles themselves. The air's cool, scented with wet clay and ink, and you sink deeper. The scribe's voices, a soothing hum. You remember those kids from the alleys, their games wild, while this feels like a duel of wits under Ur's starry sky. The young scribe offers you a clay token, a blank one, and you grin, tucking it into your tunic as a keepsake. The rain keeps falling, a steady whisper, and you let the riddle's cadence carry you closer to sleep. The game pauses, the scribes sharing a jug of barley beer, their laughter soft but sharp. You're tempted to stay, but the night's lullaby is strong, the stars blurring above. You lean back, the rooftop fading into the rain's gentle hum, and think of those sneaky dice rollers, probably clueless about these brainy games. You smirk. Ur's got a game for every soul, doesn't it? The scribes' voices linger, their riddles echoing as you drift. The night wrapping you in its quiet embrace. You drift away from the scribes' rooftop, their riddles echoing as you descend the stair. The rain's soft patter blending with the scent of inky clay and distant river reeds. The stars still guide you through Ur's quiet streets, but now they lead you beyond the city's mud brick walls to the banks of the Euphrates, where the air's thick with wet earth and the croak of frogs. You follow a path along the river, your sandals sinking into damp soil, and spot a group of locals gathered on a grassy patch, their laughter rising over the water's gentle lap, their racing tiny boats made of bundled reeds, their makeshift fleet bobbing under the moonlight. You settle onto a flat stone, the coolness seeping through your tunic, and watch. Drawn into this playful riverbank game, reed boat races were a beloved pastime in Mesopotamia, especially near rivers like the Euphrates, where reeds grew thick and boats were a way of life. Cuneiform tablets from Ur describe community contests, often tied to fishing or trade festivals, where locals tested their crafting and racing skills. You see it now. A young man with a lopsided grin pushes his reed boat into the current, its tiny clay sail catching the breeze. His rival, a woman with a woven headband, nudges her boat alongside, her fingers deft from years of weaving. The crowd cheers, betting handfuls of barley or clay beads, their voices softened by the rain's steady hum. You're tempted to craft a boat and join, but you'd probably sink it faster than you lost at dice in that courtyard. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some racers weighted their boats with polished pebbles, claiming it stabilized them, though it often just made them tip. A dig in Kish found a sunken reed boat with a pebble still lodged inside, probably a racer's failed experiment. You spot a kid sneaking an extra pebble into his boat, only for it to wobble and flip, earning a laugh from the group. Historians still argue whether these races were pure fun or a way to hone skills for fishing and trade, where river navigation was crucial. You watch the woman's boat surge ahead, her grin fierce, and figure it's both play and practice under Ur's starry sky. The race unfolds, boats weaving through the current, some catching reeds and others gliding smoothly. You lean forward, the stone damp under you, and smell the river's muddy tang, mingling with the rain's earthy whisper. The scene's lively, but soothing, the water's rhythm blending with the crowd's chatter like a lullaby. You're reminded of the festival's rooftop games, their energy bold, while this feels grounded, tied to the river's flow. You chuckle, imagining those brainy scribes trying to race boats they'd probably overthink the sail and capsize. The rain pulls you deeper, your eyelids heavy, and you realize this game's about trust in the river, a skill you're still learning. A boat veers off course, and the crowd groans, tossing good-natured jabs at the racer. You join in, clapping, then laugh at yourself rooting for reed boats now. You're all in. The air's cool, scented with wet grass and fish, and you sink deeper, the boat's bobbing shapes blurring in the moonlight. You remember those sneaky kids from the alleys, probably dreaming of racing boats like these. The woman wins, her boat crossing an imaginary finish line, and the crowd cheers, passing around a jug of date juice. You're offered a sip, its sweetness grounding you, and you nod thanks, feeling part of this riverside circle. The rain keeps falling, a gentle whisper, and you let the race's rhythm carry you closer to sleep. The group starts a new race. Kids scrambling to build fresh boats, their hands muddy and quick. You're tempted to stay, but the river's flow and the rain's lullaby are strong, the stars blurring above. You lean back, the stone steady beneath you, and think of those clay tablets from the first rooftop, their rules etched for order, while this game thrives on chaos and joy. You smirk. Ur's games are as wild as its rivers, aren't they? The laughter lingers, the boats bobbing as you drift, the night wrapping you in its quiet embrace. You ease away from the Euphrates riverbank. The reed boat's gentle bobbing fading as you tread back toward Ur's heart. The rain's soft patter blending with the scent of muddy water and distant tamarisk. The stars burn brighter now, their patterns sharp against the night sky, guiding you to a high rooftop overlooking the city's sprawl. You climb a worn mud brick stair, your sandals scuffing, and find a small group of elders gathered on woven mats, their faces etched with the time. They're playing a board game, but their moves are slow, deliberate, each piece placed with a story tied to the constellations above. You settle onto a straw mat, the air cool with the scent of wet clay and fading lamp oil, and listen, drawn into a game where steers shape the rules. Mesopotamians were avid stargazers, and their games often reflected the cosmos. Cuneiform tablets from Babylon describe board games with rules inspired by star patterns, used to teach astronomy or honor gods like Sin, the moon deity. You watch an elder, his beard silvered, move a polished stone across a board etched with a star map, his voice low as he explains its link to the Bull of Heaven. A constellation tied to epic tales. His opponent, a woman with a woven shawl, counters, her piece landing near a crescent symbol, and she murmurs a story of a star guiding a lost trader. The rain's gentle hum weaves through their words, making the stars seem to pulse in rhythm. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some star-based games used glow-in-the-dark shells, coated with crushed minerals to mimic starlight. A dig in Uruk found a shell piece that still faintly glowed, likely a prized game token. You spot a similar shell on the board, its shimmer catching the moonlight, and grin. Mesopotamians were basically inventing board game bling. Historians still argue whether these games were educational tools or ritual acts, perhaps seeking favor from celestial gods. You watch the elder's next move, his hand steady, and figure it's both learning and reverence under Ur's starry sky. The game unfolds, each move sparking a tale of heroes, floods, or wandering stars. You lean back, the mat prickling through your tunic, and let the stories wash over you, their cadence blending with the rain's soft drone. This rooftop feels like a bridge to the heavens, far from the river's muddy chaos or the market's bets. You're reminded of the scribe's riddle game, its wit sharp, while this feels ancient, woven into the cosmos itself. You chuckle, imagining those rowdy reed boat racers trying this. They'd probably toss the board and call it too slow. The rain pulls you deeper, your eyelids heavy, and you realize this game's about time, not competition. Each story, a thread in Ur's endless night. The woman tells of a star that fell, sparking a village's festival, and you're tempted to ask which one, but you'd probably sound like a clueless trader and get a kind smile. Instead, you watch. The star map glowing faintly under the lamp, the air's crisp, scented with wet earth and wax, and you sink deeper. The elders' voices, a soothing hum. You remember those sneaky kids from the alleys, their games wild. While this feels like wisdom shared under the stars, the elder offers you a clay cup of barley tea, its warmth grounding you, and you nod thanks, feeling part of this quiet circle. The rain keeps falling, a steady whisper, and you let the starlit tales carry you closer to sleep. The game pauses, the elders gazing upward, tracing constellations with weathered fingers. You're tempted to stay, but the night's lullaby is strong, the stars blurring above. You lean back, the rooftop fading into the rain's gentle hum, and think of those clay tablets from the first rooftop, their rules etched for order. While this game follows the sky's rhythm, you smirk. Ur's games are as vast as its stars, aren't they? The elders' stories linger, their voices echoing as you drift. The night wrapping you in its cosmic embrace. You slip away from the elders' starlit rooftop, their cosmic tales fading as you descend the stair. The rain's soft patter, blending with the scent of damp clay and distant date palms. The stars still guide you through Ur's quiet streets, leading you to the shadow of a grand temple, its ziggurat looming like a mountain under the moonlight. You follow a stone path, your sandals brushing against cool limestone, and climb a side stair to a temple rooftop where a small group gathers around a low altar. They're playing a game with clay tokens, offering them in a sacred contest tied to the gods. You settle onto a woven mat, the air heavy with incense and the rain's earthy hum, and watch, drawn into a ritual where play meets prayer. Temple games in Mesopotamia were often devotional, blending competition with worship. Cuneiform tablets from Babylon describe offering games, where players placed tokens representing grain, livestock, or vows on altars to seek favor from gods like Shamash, the justice deity. You see it now. A priestess in a fringed robe places a token shaped like a barley stalk, her voice soft as she murmurs a prayer. Her opponent, a young man with a nervous smile, counters with a lamb-shaped token, his hands trembling. The crowd watches in reverent silence, their breaths mingling with the rain's gentle drone. You're tempted to join, but you'd probably offer the wrong token and accidentally pledge your sandal to a god. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some temple games use tokens painted with rare dyes, like blue from crushed lapis, to impress the gods with flashy devotion. A dig in Sippar found a blue-painted token, likely a high-stakes offering, now faded, but once a priest's flex. You spot a glint of blue on the priestess's token and grin. Mesopotamians loved their bling, even in prayer. Historians still argue whether these games were genuine worship or a way to curry divine favor for earthly gains, like better harvests or dodging taxes. You watch the young man's careful move, his eyes on the altar, and figure it's both faith and hope under Ur's starry sky. Hey everyone, we've reached this point. Have you drifted off to sleep yet? If you're still awake, drop a comment to let me know where you're at and how you're feeling. But if you're already fast asleep, I wish you a deep, restful sleep filled with beautiful dreams. Now, back to the rooftop. The game unfolds, each token placed with a whispered vow, the altar glowing under a bronze lamp. You lean back, the mat soft against your tunic, and smell the incense, sharp and sweet. Blending with the rain's whisper, the scene's serene, a far cry from the riverbank races or market bets. yet it carries the same spirit of connection. You chuckle, imagining those reed boat racers trying this. They'd probably offer a soggy reed and call it divine. The priestess places another token, her prayer for rain, ironically answered by our modern soundscape. And you smile, feeling the night's gentle humor. The air's cool, scented with myrrh and wet stone, and you sink deeper. The token's faint clinks a soothing rhythm. You're reminded of the women's courtyard game, its quiet strategy, while this feels like a dialogue with the divine. The young man hesitates, then offers a final token, earning a nod from the priestess. You clap softly, caught in the moment, then laugh at yourself cheering for sacred tokens now. You're all in. The rain keeps falling, a steady lullaby, and you let the ritual's calm carry you closer to sleep. The game ends. The tokens left on the altar as offerings, the group bowing to the stars. You're tempted to stay, but the night's pull is strong, the ziggurat's shadow blurring above. You lean back, the rooftop fading into the rain's gentle hum, and think of those sneaky dice rollers from the market, probably clueless about these holy games. You smirk. Ur's games touch every corner, don't they? The priestess's voice lingers, her prayers echoing as you drift, the night wrapping you in its sacred embrace. You ease away from the temple rooftop, the priestess's prayers fading as you descend the limestone stair. The rain's soft patter blending with the scent of incense and damp earth. The stars still guide you, their light piercing Ur's quiet streets. But now, they lead you beyond the city's walls to a desert camp where nomads rest under the vast sky. You follow a sandy path, your sandals crunching, and reach a cluster of reed tents, their roofs flat and open to the night. A group of nomads, their faces weathered by sun and wind, sits on woven blankets, playing a compact game with small stone pieces on a leather board. You settle beside them, the air sharp, with the scent of desert dust and the rain's gentle hum, drawn into a game designed for wanderers. Nomads in Mesopotamia, often traders or herders, played portable games to pass long nights on the move. Cuneiform tablets from Mari mention travel games, small enough to fit in a saddlebag, used to bond or settle disputes among tribes. You watch a nomad with a scarred hand slide a stone across the leather, its grid scratched with a knife, aiming to block his opponent's path. His rival, a woman with a beaded scarf, counters with a sly grin, her move trapping his stos. The group chuckles, their voices low, blending with the rain's whisper. You're tempted to join, but you'd probably fumble the stones, like your dice rollback in Ur's courtyard, and owe someone a camel. Here's the quirky tidbit: some nomad games used bones as pieces, polished from meals and carved with tiny symbols, like a post-dinner DIY project. A dig near Sippar found a sheep bone etched with a star, likely a nomad's lucky piece. You spot a bone piece on the board, its surface gleaming, and grin, recycling was a Mesopotamian art. Historians still argue whether these games were just for fun or a way to teach strategy for trade routes and survival, where every move mattered. You watch the woman's next play, her focus sharp, and figure it's both play and preparation under the desert's starry sky. The game unfolds. Stones clicking softly, each move a quiet challenge. You lean back, the blanket rough against your tunic, and smell the faint smoke of a dying campfire, mingling with the rain's earthy drone. This camp feels like a world apart from Ur's bustling rooftops. Yet the spirit's the same connection through play. You're reminded of the temple's sacred tokens, their reverence deep. While this game feels raw, born of the desert's freedom, you chuckle. Imagining those stuffy scribes trying this, they'd probably demand a clay tablet to record the rules. The rain pulls you deeper, your eyelids heavy, and you realize this game's about trust. A bond forged in the vast night. The scarred nomad makes a bold move, earning a nod from the group, and you clap softly, caught in the moment, then laugh at yourself, cheering for stones again. You're hopeless. The air's cool, scented with sand and leather, and you sink deeper, the board's faint lines blurring in the starlight. You remember those sneaky kids from Ur's alleys, their games wild, while this feels steady, grounded in the nomad's wandering life. The woman offers you a sip of goat's milk. It's tang sharp, and you nod thanks, feeling part of this fleeting circle. The rain keeps falling, a steady lullaby, and you let the game's rhythm carry you closer to sleep. The game pauses, the nomads sharing a story of a past match where someone hit a piece in the sand, cheating's everywhere. Isn't it? You smirk, thinking of those dice rollers and their rigged bets. The desert stretches around you, vast and quiet, its silence amplifying the rain's whisper. You're tempted to stay, but the night's pull is strong, the stars blurring above. You lean back, the camp fading into the rain's gentle hum. And think of those clay tablets from Ur, their rules etched for city games, while this thrives on the desert's freedom. The nomad's laughter lingers, their game a spark in the night's embrace. You drift away from the nomad's desert camp, their quiet game fading as you tread back toward Ur, the rain's soft patter blending with the scent of sandy dust and distant river reeds. The stars guide you through the city's gates, their light piercing the night, leading you to a grand rooftop atop a noble's home, its clay tiles gleaming under moonlight. You climb a polished stair, your sandals whispering, and find a small group of elites draped in fine linen gathered around a lavish board game. It's the royal game of Ur, but this version's a masterpiece. Its board inlaid with lapis lazuli and shell, pieces carved from ivory. You settle onto a cushioned mat, the air warm with the scent of myrrh and the rain's earthy hum, drawn into a sea fit for kings. The royal game of Ur was a favorite among Mesopotamia's elite, played in palaces and tombs. Archaeologists found a stunning board in Ur's royal cemetery, dating to 2600 BCE, suggesting it was a status symbol, maybe even a gift for the afterlife. You watch a noble with a gold-trimmed tunic roll tetrahedral dice, his move sending an ivory piece along the board's twisting path. His opponent, a woman with jeweled pins in her hair, counters with a smirk, her piece landing on a rosette square lucky. doubling her turn. The group's banter is sharp but playful. Their bets subtle copper rings, rare spices. You're tempted to join, but you'd probably fumble the dice, like in that courtyard, and owe someone a palace. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some elite boards had hidden compartments for lucky charms, like tiny amulets to sway the gods. A dig in Nineveh found one with a cuneiform note cursing cheaters, Mesopotamian shade at its finest. You spot a glint under the board, maybe a charm, and grin nobles weren't above a little divine hustle. Historians still argue whether the game was pure leisure for the rich or a metaphor for fate, its path mimicking life's twists. You watch the woman's next move, her confidence regal, and figure it's both play and power under Ur's starry sky. The game unfolds, dice clattering, pieces gliding like dancers. You lean back, the mat soft against your tunic, and smell the myrrh, sharp and sweet, blending with the rain's gentle drone. This rooftop feels like a throne, far from the desert's raw freedom or the temple's reverence, yet it hums with the same spirit connection through play. You're reminded of the nomad's leatherboard, its simplicity stark, while this game drips with wealth. You chuckle, imagining those riverbank racers trying this. They'd probably pawn the board for reeds. The rain pulls you deeper, your eyelids heavy, and you realize this game's about legacy. Each move, a nod to Ur's enduring elite. The noble rolls poorly, groaning, and blames a passing bat for jinxing him. You laugh. Superstitions are universal, aren't they? The air's warm, scented with spice and wet clay, and you sink deeper. The boards gleam, blurring in the moonlight. You remember those sneaky kids from the alleys, their games wild, while this feels polished, a noble's art. The woman offers you a sip of date wine, its richness grounding you, and you nod thanks, feeling part of this gilded circle. The rain keeps falling, a steady lullaby, and you let the game's rhythm carry you closer to sleep. The game pauses, the group sharing a story of a past match where a noble hit an ivory piece cheating's elite. Too, isn't it? You smirk, thinking of those nomads and their sneaky sand tricks. The rooftop glows, its opulence a testament to Ur's wealth. Yet the game's heart is the same joy amid life's grind. You're tempted to stay, but the night's pull is strong, the stars blurring above. You lean back, the rooftop fading into the rain's gentle hum, and think of those clay tablets from the first rooftop, their rules etched for all. While this game shines for the few, the noble's laughter lingers, their game a spark in the night's embrace. You slip away from the noble's opulent rooftop, the clink of ivory pieces fading as you descend the polished stair. The rain's soft patter blending with the scent of myrrh and cooling clay. The stars guide you back to Ur's bustling heart, their light piercing the night, leading you to a torchlit night market where the air hums with chatter and the clatter of goods. You weave through stalls piled with figs, pottery, and woven reeds, your tunic brushing against passers-by, until you spot a lively crowd in a corner, betting on a quirky game. They're tossing clay discs into a ring scratched in the dirt, their shouts mingling with the rain's gentle hum. You squat nearby, the ground gritty under your sandals, drawn into this chaotic, torch-lit contest. Night markets in Mesopotamia were hotspots for games, especially betting ones, where locals tested luck and nerve. Cuneiform tablets from Babylon describe ring games, where players aim discs or stones at targets, wagering anything from grain to trinkets. You watch a trader with a lopsided grin fling a disc, its edge chipped, aiming for the ring's center. It lands close, sparking cheers. But his rival, a woman with a woven belt, tosses hers dead on, claiming a handful of copper beads. The crowd roars, betting more dates, a clay cup, even a dubious-looking fish. You're tempted to try, but you'd probably miss the ring. Like your dice roll in that courtyard, and owe someone a basket of reeds. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some players painted their discs with lucky symbols, like fish or stars, believing it swayed the gods. A dig in Ur found a disc with a tiny cuneiform win etched on it, probably a hopeful gambler's charm. You spot a star-painted disc in the woman's hand and grin. Mesopotamians loved their lucky bling. Historians still argue whether these market games were pure gambling or a way to settle trade disputes, like a high-stakes handshake. You watch the trader's next toss, his focus sharp, and figure it's both cash and camaraderie under Ur's starry sky. The game's pace is fast. Discs flying, bets shifting like sand. You lean against the stall, the wood creaking, and smell roasted sesame from a nearby vendor, mingling with the rain's earthy drone. The market's alive, its energy raw compared to the noble's polished game. Yet it carries the same spirit connection through play. You're reminded of the nomad's desert game, its simplicity stark. While this thrives on chaos, you chuckle. Imagining those temple priests trying this, they'd probably pray the disc into the next stall. The rain pulls you deeper, your eyelids heavy, and you realize this game's about the thrill. Each toss a spark in the night, the woman wins again. Pocketing a clay whistle, and the crowd cheers. Passing around a jug of barley beer, you're offered a sip, its tang sharp, and nod thanks. Feeling part of this rowdy circle. The air's warm, scented with smoke and wet dirt, and you sink deeper. The disc's arcs blurring in the torchlight. You remember those sneaky kids from the alleys, probably hustling discs like these. The trader tosses wildly, missing, and blames a stray cat for jinxing him. You laugh. Bad luck's always got a scapegoat, doesn't it? The rain keeps falling, a steady lullaby, and you let the market's pulse carry you closer to sleep. The game slows, players settling bets with slaps on the back and promises of tomorrow's rematch. You stand, brushing dust from your tunic, and glance at the stars. Their light steady above the market's chaos. You're tempted to stay, but the night's pull is strong, the torchlight blurring. You lean back, the stall fading into the rain's gentle hum, and think of those clay tablets from the first rooftop, their rules etched for order, while this game thrives on wild bets. You smirk. Yours night markets are as lively as its games, aren't they? The crowd's laughter lingers, their discs spinning as you drift, the night wrapping you in its vibrant embrace. You drift away from the night market's chaotic disc tossing, the crowd's cheers fading as you wander Ur's quieter streets, the rain's soft patter blending with the scent of torch smoke and damp clay. The stars guide you to a modest rooftop, its straw mats worn but welcoming, where a group of elders sits in a circle, their faces lit by a flickering oil lamp. They're playing a storyboard game, weaving tales with small clay figures on a wooden board, each move a chapter in an epic. You settle onto a mat, the air cool with the scent of wet straw and fading dates, and listen, drawn into a game where stories outshine competition under Ur's starry sky. Storytelling games were cherished in Mesopotamia, especially among elders who passed down lore through play. Cuneiform tablets from Nippur describe tale-boards, where figures, heroes, gods, beasts acted out myths, teaching history or morals. You watch an elder, her hands gnarled, place a clay lion on the board, her voice low as she recounts a hunt that saved a village. Her opponent, an old man with a braided beard, counters with a warrior figure, spinning a tale of a star-guided quest. The group nods, their murmurs blending with the rain's gentle hum. You're tempted to add a story, but you'd probably ramble about that bad dice roll in the courtyard and get a kind chuckle. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some storyboards had figures with movable arms, like ancient puppets, for dramatic flair. A dig in Uruk found a clay god with a hinged arm, probably raised to wow listeners. You spot a figure with a wobbly arm and grin. Mesopotamians were the original toy designers. Historians still argue whether these games were just for storytelling or a way to preserve oral history in a world without books. You watch the elder's next tale, her lion prowling, and figure it's both memory and magic under the stars. The game unfolds, figures moving, stories flowing like the Euphrates. You lean back, the mat prickling through your tunic, and smell the lamp's faint oil, mingling with the rain's earthy drone. This rooftop feels like a hearth, far from the market's buzz or the noble's glitz. Yet it hums with Ur's heart connection through play. You're reminded of the starlit game with elders, its cosmic tales deep, while this feels grounded, rooted in human struggles. You chuckle, imagining those market disc tossers trying this. They'd probably turn the lion into a betting chip. The rain pulls you deeper, your eyelids heavy, and you realize this game's about legacy. Each tale a thread in Ur's tapestry. The old man tells of a flood survived, his voice cracking with emotion, and you're tempted to ask for details, but you'd probably sound like a nosy trader and get a gentle smile. Instead, you listen, the clay figures glowing faintly in the lamplight. The air's cool, scented with wet clay and straw, and you sink deeper. The story's cadence a soothing hum. You remember those sneaky kids from the alleys, their games wild. While this feels like wisdom shared, the elder offers you a dried fig, its sweetness grounding you, and you nod thanks, feeling part of this quiet circle. The rain keeps falling, a steady lullaby, and you let the tales carry you closer to sleep. The game pauses, the elders sharing a laugh over a past story where someone dropped a figure mid-tale. Clumsiness is universal, isn't it? You smirk, thinking of those market hustlers and their sneaky bets. The rooftop glows, its simplicity a testament to Ur's enduring stories. Yet the game's heart is the same joy amid life's grind. You're tempted to stay, but the night's pull is strong, the stars blurring above. You lean back, the rooftop fading into the rain's gentle hum, and think of those clay tablets from the first rooftop. Their rules etched for games. While this thrives on tales, the elders' voices linger, their stories echoing as you drift. The night wrapping you in its timeless embrace, you ease away from the elders' storytelling rooftop, their tales of lions and floods lingering as you descend the stair. The rain's soft patter blending with the scent of wet straw and fading lamplight, the stars still guide you through Ur's quiet streets, their light softer now, leading you to a final rooftop. Perched high above the city, you climb a creaky ladder, your sandals gripping the rungs, and settle onto a simple straw mat, alone with the vast night. No players, no boards, just you, the stars, and the hum of below. Its games echoing in your mind. You lean back, the mat prickling through your tunic, and reflect on the city's rooftop memories. Each game a spark in Mesopotamia's endless night. Games were Ur's heartbeat, from dice to storyboards, binding people across time. Cuneiform tablets, like those you saw on that first rooftop, preserve this legacy, with rules and tallies etched in clay, proving play was as vital as trade or prayer. You recall the royal game of its lapis board gleaming for nobles, and the reed boat races, their muddy joy by the Euphrates. Each game, from the market's disc tossing to the temple's sacred tokens, wove people together, defying floods and kings. Here's the quirky tidbit: one tablet from Babylon lists a game tax, a fee for rooftop matches. Talk about taxing fun. You grin, imagining a Sumerian grumbling over it, like you did with that courtyard dice loss. Historians still argue whether these games were mere pastimes or mirrors of Mesopotamian values strategy. Luck, community, you think of the nomads' portable stones, the women's quiet tokens, and figure it's all true play was Ur's soul, shining under the stars. The rain's gentle drone wraps you, the air cool with the scent of damp clay and distant rivers. You're tempted to stay, chasing more games, but the night's pull is strong, your eyelids heavy. You're reminded of those sneaky kids from the alleys, their wild tag games, and the scribe's sharp riddles, all part of Ur's vibrant tapestry. Hey everyone, we've reached this point. Have you drifted off to sleep yet? If you're still awake, drop a comment to let me know where you're at and how you're feeling. But if you're already fast asleep, I wish you a deep, restful sleep filled with beautiful dreams. Now, you sink deeper, the rooftop fading into a soft blur. The stars above glow gently, their light a quiet promise. And you feel the city's pulse, its laughter, its bets, its stories fading into the rain's steady whisper. You chuckle, thinking of that market hustler with his star-painted disc, probably still betting somewhere below. Ur's games live on, don't they? The night grows still, the rain's rhythm slowing, each drop a soft note in a lullaby. You lean back, the mat cradling you, and let the memories swirl, dice clattering, shadows dancing, elders' voices weaving tales, The air is cool, scented with wet earth, and you sink deeper, the stars blurring into a dreamy haze. You're part of now, your breath in sync with its ancient rhythm. The game's a gentle echo in your mind. The rain keeps falling, a tender hum, and you drift. The city's rooftops fading into the night's embrace. As the rain's whisper softens, you feel slip away. Its starry rooftops dissolving into a quiet, boundless calm. Each game dice, boards, stories fades like a dream, leaving only warmth, a gentle glow in your chest. You're safe here, cradled by the night, the rain's tender rhythm rocking you deeper into rest. Imagine the stars above, their light steady, watching over you as they did players, their laughter now a distant hum. Let your breath slow. Your thoughts drift like reeds on the Euphrates, carrying you to a place of peace. The games are over. The city sleeps, and you're free to sink into dreams, wrapped in the night's soothing embrace. The rain's final notes guiding you to rest.